Hey fellas, me Trapper here. Today we're going to talk about snare cable and what the best snare cable to use is and why it makes a difference. Stay tuned. Now there are two basic types of snare cable. Snare cables come in all different diameters, but what I'm talking about is the type of twist. On the left is a traditional 7x7 twist cable. On the right is a 1x19 twist. The 7x7 twist is 7 bundles of 7 fibers twisted together. The 1x19 is 1 bundle of 19 fibers twisted together. You can see that the left, the 7x7 cable, is a rougher, ropier type cable. The 1x19 is a smoother, slicker type cable. The vast majority of the time I prefer a 1x19 cable, but there are situations when you can use a 7x7 cable effectively, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Now this snare is made of 1x19 twist cable. I want you to look at how round that loop is, and if I wanted to load it a little more right there, I could get it to be perfectly round. In fact, I can overload it to where I can almost get it to hold a rectangle or an oblong type of shape if I wanted to do that. But this cable, the 1x19 twist, I like it because it holds a very round loop and it's a very strong cable. It is stronger for the same diameter 7x7 twist cable. The 1x19 twist is also a tighter twist, and it makes it harder for animals to get their teeth in between the fibers of the cable, and if they can separate those fibers, they're more easily able to chew out. So that is the snare set on the trail in 1x19. Let's take a look at the same snare set in the same trail with 7x7. Now here's the same diameter cable, but this is the 7x7 twist. Notice how this loop is much more droopy and teardrop in shape. And this cable has been loaded to some degree, but the 7x7 simply will not hold that nice round loop that the 1x19 does. It's just a floppier cable. It's not as stiff. So, which one is best? Like I say, I prefer the 1x19. But there are a lot of situations where a 7x7 cable may be the better choice. Number one is if you are snaring an animal and you're not sure about how high the head is, you may want a more vertical type of loop rather than a round loop. A round loop is going to be like perfectly circular, but the more vertical teardrop gives you a greater chance of getting an animal of a different height. Say if this were set for a hog, depending upon how high that hog's head is, if his head is just high enough to get over that loop, he's going to get caught. But if his head is way up here, he's still going to get caught. In other words, I have more vertical drop, but I have less horizontal coverage. You have to be careful with this and make sure that the wind is not going to blow this stuff shut. And you can see the lock there, see how that will close very fast. In a high wind, I may want to move that lock farther down this direction over here. So it just depends. So which is best? Since I'm primarily a water trapper, and when I'm snaring beaver in water because it's illegal to snare on dry land here in my state, I use that 1x19 cable because I can put a good round loop in it. I can put it right in the beaver run, and it's going to be less affected by ripples in the water because it's a stiffer cable. You'll find that people also like to use it for underwater beaver trapping, under ice beaver trapping, that sort of thing, where a stiff loop is necessary. If you think about it being completely underwater, that teardrop loop from a softer cable is not going to be as effective. However, on land, there are a lot of guys that snare a lot of animals with 7x7 cable. There's nothing wrong with it. It's cheaper to buy, so you can buy more of it. And like I say, when you're on a dry ground trail, if you're snaring hogs or something like that, or coyotes, If they're sticking to that trail with that teardrop shaped loop, you're going to have higher vertical clearance on that loop, and it's going to give you a greater margin for error, let's say. So there is no such thing as the right cable and the wrong cable. There are just different cables for different purposes, and I hope that's cleared some of that up. The one thing I will tell you is that there is a big difference between Chinese cable and Korean cable. The Chinese cable is garbage. Korean cable is where it's at. Some suppliers will actually label their cable premium cable, etc., etc. You know, so you can tell the more expensive cable. When you're making extension cables, I buy the cheap Chinese crap because the extension cables are going to get kinked all up and they don't really matter. But when it comes to snares, I'm going to buy the good cable, no matter if it's 7x7 or 1x19. So don't scrimp on your cable. Well, anyway, I hope this has been useful. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.